I'll be surprised if you still didn't know that you could use your Visa or MasterCard on public transport in Singapore to take bus and MRT rides. In fact, this best credit card for bus and MRT and SimplyGo rides have been an ongoing series. I kickstarted this series in 2021, updated it in 2022 and 2023, and even in 2024, I also had some opinions on the U-turn with the SimplyGo policy when they wanted to remove EasyLink and NetsFlashPay. But I guess if you want a faster news on all these credit card notifications as well as strategies, then come and join us at our close to 18,000 members Telegram group at Honey Money SG. Join us for free today. Number 1 credit card, let's talk about Standard Chartered Smart Card, because they have recently came out with the news that from 6 December onwards there will be some changes. And what are the changes? Firstly, the current benefits of 6% cashback with no minimum spend on specific merchants is going to be changed. Okay, no more 6% cashback with no minimum spend. The most basic tier with no minimum spend is going to be 4% instead of the usual 6%. So if you're watching this video now and it's before 6 December, you can still get 6% with no minimum spend. But from 6 December onwards, you only get 4% if you didn't hit the minimum spend. Then if you ask me, 4% with no minimum spend, isn't it still quite good? Actually, I tend to agree, because 6% is like very good. 4% is just decent, it's fair. With no minimum spend, some more there. But what if you can hit the minimum spend, which is at least $800, you will get 8% cashback on the specific merchants. Then if you hit the higher tier of $1,500, you can get 10% cashback. So that's the bad news, right? No more 6% with no min spend. But you see, the good news is they added some new merchants into the list, but they didn't add any new categories, or it's still within the same realm of partner merchants business. For example, like coffee places, they added the coffee bean and tea leaf. And let me be very clear that for Standard Chartered Smart Card, you can only get the bonus cashback on specific merchant name, not tied to the MCC. Even if it's the same MCC like fast food, you can only get the 4% cashback minimally at McDonald's, KFC, all these listed one here. You don't get it at other fast food restaurants like Jollibee, Popeyes, Texas Chicken, no. So if you want to get your Standard Chartered Smart Card, you can sign up using my exclusive links here, either from the Standard Chartered official website, or you can sign up with the SingSaver gifts, depending which one is better. So if you ask me, is this Standard Chartered Smart Card still usable or not? I still think it's a very good no-frills card. 4%, I know it's not as good as 6%, but it's still a fairly decent card if you don't want to meet like minimum spend, you don't want to look at terms and conditions, or you want to focus your time on more important stuff than to mind a 2% loss in cashback, which everyone is arguing about. Like myself right now, I really don't want to sweat all these small money, small benefits, and focus on the big thing, which is improving your high value skills and increasing your net worth, which is why one of the ways is to start investing for the long term. And you should really check out Interactive Brokers because they offer one of the most competitive platforms with the widest range of markets, including London Stock Exchange. So I'm also using Interactive Brokers, and if you want to check out them, it's in the link right here, not sponsored. Now, if you're willing to take the effort and meet minimum spend requirements, I guess the next best card would be Maybank Family and Friends, because the headline benefit is 8% cashback, but that comes with a minimum spend requirement of $800. Do note that the cashback is capped at $25 per category, and you can choose 5 categories. So that means a total cashback cap of $125 per month. Anyway, this Maybank Family and Friends card is going to be my top cashback credit card since I'm going to move to my new place really soon. And after returning from Malaysia to Singapore, I think I'm more confident of hitting the minimum spend of $800 per month. Then if you ask me which of these 5 categories should I choose, I'll give you my list. Firstly, dining. Secondly, transport. Thirdly, data communications. Fourthly, groceries, and lastly, online shopping. I believe that these 5 categories are the most relevant to my lifestyle, but your lifestyle may be rather different, so you have to choose the categories that best fit for your lifestyle. Next card on the list is UOB One Visa Credit Card, and this is not an easy card to use. I have to tell you, at least the headline benefits is up to 10% cashback, but the realistic cashback is only 8.33%. Why so? Firstly, UOB One Visa is kind of a special cashback card where they only reward bonus cashback on the additional cashback merchants, and SimplyGo, Bus and MRT happens to be one of the special ACB merchants. So if you look at the base cashback of 3.33% when you hit $500 of minimum spend, then you add a 5% additional cashback, that makes it 8.33%. And to be clear, there are 3 spending tiers that you can hit consecutively: $500, $1,000 or $2,000. But the thing is, you need to maintain this consistent monthly spend for at least 3 months within the specific cashback quarter. So if you don't know when does your specific quarter starts from the 3-month period, best to check with a CSO. ask them what is your qualifying period. Don't assume that it's January, February, March. It doesn't work like that. It could be February, March and April, or even March, April, May. So you have to be very careful on using the UOB One card because the other requirement is to at least hit 5 transactions. So if you miss any, that goes for your entire quarter cashback, That's why in one of my past videos, I stopped using a UOB One card. But I still think that if my lifestyle spending hits this UOB One requirement, I may start to use the UOB One Visa card again because all other cashback cards seems to be coming to nerf. Okay, so I talked so much about cashback credit cards. What about a specific miles credit card? Is there some cards that are good for miles? I would say the KrisFlyer UOB will be a good choice. Firstly, it gives 3 miles per dollar on transport, and transport includes SimplyGo bus and MRT rides. But here's a caveat, right? You need to hit a minimum of $800 on Singapore Airlines Group, including Scoot and KrisShop per annum. So if you don't hit $800 minimally on this Singapore Airline Group merchants, then you won't get your 3 miles per dollar on transport. But I think that at current prices, if you buy at least 2 Singapore Airlines tickets return, it is easily above $800, even within the Asia region. But if you're not a fan of Singapore Airlines, I believe you can still take Scoot, right? Scoot do fly to places in China, in Taiwan, and even Japan. And all these places can at least clock you $800 per annum. And I assume that if you're really a mouse chaser, you will love taking flights, right? So I don't think that $800 for a mouse chaser is difficult to hit on Singapore Airlines Group. And 3 miles per dollar for your public transport rides is pretty decent. I almost forget to talk about this last card because it is fairly new. It is the DCS Flex Card, like you can see right here, because it gives you 6% cash rebate. And that is if you hit a minimum spend of $600 per month. So this 6% cash rebate will be applied on either your online transactions, your contactless transactions, and you even earn some cash rebate on foreign currency purchases. So the caveat is $600 minimum spend, and it's like the old EVOL card, right? And I think that this is really a very good option really, because if you think about it, now that UOB EVOL card and DBS Live Fresh card has been nerfed, there's no more like good minimum $600 cashback card. So 6% cash rebate, I think on the DCS Flex Card is pretty good. And they even gave you the example right here. Like if you spend $120 on SimplyGo public transport, you will earn around $7.20 of cash rebate. Of course, there are other types of rewards which you can switch it flexibly, like if you prefer investment credits or if you prefer miles. But I say that just go for cash rebate. It's the most straightforward, and I believe it's the most value for money option. Meanwhile, if you also want to sign up for DCS Flex Card, then you can use my referral link right here. Do note that this is not sponsored. I just think that it's a fairly good card for new beginners as well as for public transport as well if you use a contactless payment method. Contactless. So these are my recommendations for public transportation cards. I know that there are some other credit cards out there that also give you benefits, but why I do not recommend them? Okay, let's talk about UOB Lady Card, which gives you 4 miles per dollar on transport category. Why I don't recommend it is because for UOB Ladies Card, you can either choose 1 or 2 categories. And if you can only choose 1 or 2, I believe you should put to travel or dining first, because this will be bigger ticket items than public transport. Unless you take Grab like close to $1,000 per month, which in this case, you should go and buy a car already. Then what about our old friends DBS Live Fresh and UOB EVOL credit card? Now, they used to be very good credit cards for public transport because of the mobile contactless and contactless payment benefits. But now that they have increased their minimum spend requirements to $800, and I don't think that is a good card anymore. In fact, if you look at minimum spend of $800, you might as well go with the Maybank family and friends, right, with 8% cashback. Then DBS Live Fresh and UOB EVOL don't look so good anymore. Oh, one last piece of news. I forgot to mention at the start of the video that public transport fares are going to increase by the end of December. So if you haven't heard of this news, then you better be prepared and don't get a rude shock. So you want to save money, better start using credit cards for SimplyGo lah. Don't keep using EasyLink and NetSplashPay. Got no benefits on other than you can see the balance at the ticket gantry. That's about it. At least you use these credit cards, you can get some cashback or miles back as rewards, right? Don't keep complaining of transport fare hike lah. It will only increase on. It will not go down. Rather than wasting your time to complain online about transport fare hike, try to use cashback credit card or miles credit card to earn more rewards lah. Then at least you get back something, right? So if you want to sign up for these credit cards, I do have all the links in my description. Go and check them out, and maybe you are eligible for welcome rewards also. Now, speaking of public transport, that brings me to a memory that I also need to update my hawker center payment list. because I think a lot have changed and most of you are not sure how to best pay for your hawkers now. So if you want a series update on the hawker center payment credit cards, then comment hawker +1, okay? Hawker +1. Meanwhile, if you're starting to pay for your own telco and utility bills and you don't know which credit card to get, especially when so many credit cards exclude the benefit for these bill payments, then you should check out my previous video on best credit cards for telco and utility bills right here.